name's Nelson Faerber. We're a candidate for Secretary of State, but before I begin, I just want to thank my wife. I love you, and I appreciate your support during this process. It'd be very hard for us to do the statewide campaign by yourself, and a lot of us have spouses that have been accompanying us through this process, and I know that I couldn't do it without you, so thank you so much for what you've done. Adam and Liz, my two favorite sailors, thank you for spending this special day with us today. It means the world that you come here and support me on a day like this. And my in-laws, thank you so much for being here. Now, I'm going to give you a few minutes of a roadmap about what I'm going to talk to you about for a few minutes. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what the Secretary of State's office does, how I would run the Secretary of State's office, what would be different about what I would do and what the incumbent would do. Then I'll share with you a little bit about who I am as a person, how I meet opportunities in my life. So the Secretary of State's office, from a 30,000-foot view perspective, you're looking down at citizen services. So nonprofits, 501c3s, secure transactions, UCC filings, notaries, trademarks, even the cable franchise. But arguably most important is this office's responsibility to our state's business constituents. Because if you're going to start a business or if you're an entrepreneur, the first place you go to after talking with your family is the Secretary of State's office. So it would be incumbent upon that office to have top-of-the-line resources, whether online or in person, which is why I think our platform has to take us from the level that we're at today and move us forward. Sorry about that. So what I would like to do is take us to another level, to let us compete in citizen services. Take our level from where we are at today and take it to another level. So that would involve providing services that we see being provided in other states and bringing them here to South Carolina. You see, other states will provide a service which helps you understand entity structures that your business may be incorporated under. So whether that's an LLC or an LLP or an S corporation, whatever that might be, what entity structure best fits your business model? And then if you're going to be a domestic LLC, meaning you're operating entirely within the state, they'll help you understand city rules and permits and regulations that may apply to your business and help you succeed, because we know small businesses usually fail within the first 5 years. So if we're allowed to put you on a firm foundation to start with and then get out of the way, you might be able to succeed in your business. And then finally, understand that if you're going to have employees in your business, get an EIN number, orient them to the IRS and help you understand how to file your taxes as a small business. This is just one small way that we can use technology that we see other states applying today and bringing it here to South Carolina. And finally, I'm going to share with you a little bit about who I am, how I meet opportunities in my life. I'm 32 years old. I'm going to take you back 16 years when I was a high school student. And as a student, I was a football player. I was a good football player, but I wasn't a great football player. I had a couple scholarship opportunities to play at the Air Force Academy, the Naval Academy, but there was this young and charismatic coach at Clemson named Dabo Sweeney who sold me on the opportunity to walk on at Clemson. He said, I'm going to give you an opportunity. I'm not going to give you a scholarship, but I see a little bit of you that I see in myself. And I was given an opportunity at the University of Alabama, and with that opportunity, I was able to pay for my school through a full scholarship. And if you come to Clemson, I won't treat you any different than any other player, and that's what I did. And within 2 years at Clemson, I earned a full scholarship, which for me meant something, because I went to Clemson on an opportunity to pay for my school through a work ethic. And then through my work ethic, I was able to pay for college. That's how I met that opportunity in life. And then within 5 years at Clemson, I was a Special Teams Player of the Year, which meant that I started as a walk-on. If there was a jersey number 100, I would have been wearing it. But within 5 years at Clemson, I didn't have the same talent as everybody else, but I could bring a work ethic to the team and contribute to a team effort. And I was recognized as one of 4 players making an impact on the team. That's how I met that opportunity that I was given. I moved on, I went to law school, and I was sitting in a classroom where I felt like there were 200, 300 other students that were smarter than I was. But there was no one in that room that was going to meet that opportunity, which is much work ethic than I would. And I graduated with honors. And I share that with you because at that point in my life, I never dreamed past playing college football or football at the highest level possible, but I met an opportunity with a work ethic, and I succeeded compared to my peers. But it's not enough to graduate from law school. You have to take the bar exam, and in 2013, I took the multi-state bar exam and scored in the top 3% of the United States. That's an opportunity in which I was competing against all of my peers nationwide, and I succeeded in that opportunity. At that point, I felt like it could be employed by any law firm in the country if I wanted to, but I decided to join the United States Air Force JAG Corps. I went to officer training school, graduated as a distinguished graduate, the top 10% of my class. Went to my first duty assignment and was a company grade officer of the year. And then I was compared against my peers. I was making a difference as an attorney. I deployed to Afghanistan, advised commanders on the rules of engagement, the laws of armed conflict, maintained discipline within the ranks, and returned home with a meritorious service medal. Through my work ethic, awarded by exception to the rank that I was. At that point, I had to go through professional military education, squadron officer school. All of your captains in the United States Air Force will attend squadron officer school. My class had 556 captains. I graduated number 8. I share that with you because that's how I meet opportunities in my life, and I view this as an opportunity. And should I receive the Republican nomination, you should know I'll meet this opportunity with my greatest work ethic. Thank you so much for sharing this evening with us.
He didn't take his 10 minutes. It's not your fault.
Sorry, I was grabbing coffee and a donut. I really need it. Let's see. Joshua Putnam's next, I do believe.
Use this one. Well, thank y'all. Obviously, I'm Joshua Putnam. My wife, Holly, she's outside. The reason why it's quiet in here is because she's outside with our kids. No, she just walked in. So we got 3 little kids, Asher, Abram, and Aniston. So I come from a large family, the oldest of 8. Most of y'all down here in Anderson know that. So I convinced Holly to pack our kids in and everything. And so we had like 3 kids, 3 and under. And so on paper, that worked out really good. I was like, we're going to get them in the house, and we're going to get them out of the house in like 18, 20 years. It's going to be me and you. We're going to travel. But what works well on paper, in reality, sometimes is a little more crazy. So our boys are out there running around. They've enjoyed the rain. But thank y'all. Number one, let me tell you how important today is with Memorial Day. I was over the weekend, I was listening to a speech that Ronald Reagan giving about Memorial Day. And it really kind of, it put it in a better perspective than I've really heard. So what he was saying is that in Memorial Day, we kind of see veterans that have passed on as these older, wiser individuals that just go off into the sunset. And he puts it a lot more eloquently than I could ever do. But he talks about that these were young people, and these were people also with families, men and women that weren't married yet. They were fathers, they were mothers, they were grandfathers and grandmothers. It was that, in the perspective of that those people were willing to die for you and I, for people that they've never met. They gave up the ability to be a father, to be a mother. They gave up the ability to be a grandfather or a grandmother. They gave up the ability to be a husband or a wife. That is what makes our country so special. It truly is, if we understand in that premise that they gave up all of that for that you and I would have that ability to enjoy that. You see, in the Republican Party, and I think they died for a country that believed in limited government, freedom. You could exceed based off of your merit. You see, I'm glad to be a Republican because our party is built on that foundation of freedom. You don't hear that from our Democrat Party. It's always about socialism. It's all about the government can do more and the government can do this and less liberties for you. Isn't it incredible on today as a Republican Party that we honor those lives and that they died for the principles that our party is the bedrock of? So let's give as we go to sleep tonight, just remember those families that they gave up. Those sacrifices that they truly do. But also as Republicans, let's realize what they died for. And that is our values as our party, as what we believe that this country was founded upon. And I think that's special to remember. I am Joshua Putnam. I've been serving in the State House the last 7 years. I represent the northern part of Anderson County, some of Pickens, some of Greenville as well. I am honored to serve in the House with several of these House members. Jonathon, I served with Don too, Mike and Jay and Brian, incredible leaders. I think Kevin was a senator back then. He was my senator. Richard Cash, he's in the back. incredible men down here that fight for what it means to be conservative Republicans. I think we have something very special here in Anderson County. We need to understand that. We have some great conservative fighters. Ann Thayer, my desk mate, she's not here, but she's an incredible fighter for what we believe as conservative Republicans. But I decided a year ago to run for Secretary of State. Now, why? Why would I give up a House seat? Why would I give up being a chairman of committees? Why would I give all that up to run for Secretary of State? Because I believe this is one of the most important offices that you will go to the ballot box in a couple weeks. The Secretary of State is the only office besides the governor that has a unique ability to touch every aspect of government. I believe that unique ability allows that role to play an important factor in everything that goes on in Columbia. You see, the last 7 years, I realized we kicked the can down the road. You see, the road funding is a crisis. It's the education system's a crisis. It's the VC Summers a crisis. It's all of these crises. It's the pension system's a crisis. We tend to kick those big issues down the road. You see, we've got to have leaders that will think 5, 10, 15 years in the future. And we have a lot of those great leaders here within our party, within here in Anderson, that do think in that. But too often in Columbia, we get so far misguided to who we serve. You see, I ran as a 21-year-old. I was elected at 22 because my father in the room worked 2 to 3 jobs my entire life. I realized when I was growing up that he didn't have a strong enough, a powerful enough voice within his government. I believe that his government left him behind and didn't offer him a seat at the table. You see, I believe the Secretary of State can be your voice. We need more voices, not fewer. We need every constitutional office holder talking about, fighting about what it means to be conservative Republicans. That is a unique aspect of this office. We're running on several different points. You can go to joshuaputnam.com. We were the first to announce over a year ago. We outlined all those points a year ago. We've been talking about them. One of the big points I like to tell people, especially the Republican Party, is we're going to move the legislator to allow the Secretary of State to be over our election process. I think that's really important, especially when you have in Democrat areas where Democrats run your local elections, where they send broken polling machines on purpose to Republican polling locations to suppress our vote. I don't think that's acceptable in South Carolina. We have one of the most Republican, conservative states. I am not going to allow Democrats to do that to our party and to our voters within the Republican Party. And as your next Secretary of State, I will be extremely aggressive to have closed party primaries, because I believe it is so important, because I grew up in the Republican Party, and it's every year we always talk about Republicans should be voting for Republicans, Democrats can vote for Democrats. Obviously, it works. The Democrats get away with kicking Mark off the ballot, but we can't kick him off on our ballot. I don't know how that works, though. But I appreciate you trying that, and that's an inside joke for anybody that knows Mark. But it's wrong. You see, I believe as Republicans, we need to nominate our standard bearer that best reflect our views and our values, and we don't need Democrats coming in and influencing that vote. And so as your next Secretary of State, we will be extremely aggressive. We have all these points, but the most important part is to give you a larger, more powerful voice in your government. It is the only office besides governor that can do that. But we've got to have the same type of leadership. We've got to have a leadership that shows up to work every single day. Not 2 days out of the week, but every single day. That's the reason why I'm running for Secretary of State. That's the reason why I decided to leave all the great things of being a House member, because I believe that this office is so important. I believe this office in this time in South Carolina can make the most difference. And I will even say I believe this office has the most impact, even with the governor's races going on. Because I can tell you this right now. If I can take one office in state government that has been overlooked for 16 years overlooked, out of sight, out of mind, you don't know what it does or what it does, if it does anything good or anything bad. But if I can take an office like that, and I can make it a household name, we would have a beautiful thing here in South Carolina. From the standpoint that as being an elected official, I've always heard 2 lies. It's too difficult, Joshua. It's always been done this way. We can't buy into those 2 lies. Because guess what? We need to be that shining beacon of what Republican conservative values can be in South Carolina. And if you'll let me as your next Secretary of State, I will use that office. I will transform that office into those principles. And whenever somebody says, It's too difficult. You can't do it. It's always been done that way. You can say, well, Joshua Putnam took this office. This office that no one knew about, and he transformed it. Why can't we? That's the most important part. That's the reason why I'm running. That's the reason why I decided to give up everything. I appreciate everybody running. I appreciate Mark's service over the last 16 years. But when you don't show up 2 days out of the week, and that's all you show up, things happen in that office over time. You lose sight of why you ran. You lose sight of showing up and working for people. Even to the point where there's actually police reports filed of assault within an office against another employee. I mean, that's a document right here. A police report right here. You've even got where the chief of staff has given herself a $10,000 raise within 1 year and has increased her pay, now get this, over $50,000. You've got higher managers within the office. I don't know how it happens because I've been in government for 7 years. I don't know how government employees go from $20,000 something dollars to making over $80,000 within a few years. Those things aren't right, and also they border on unethical practices of how you got to that part with job reclassifications. We need different leadership in the office to talk about conservative Republican things and to use that. And we don't need to worry about the next lawsuit when we have to settle in that office from employment issues that we have done in the past. Thank you all. God bless.
Anderson County Republican women welcome Mark Hammond.
Well, thank you. It's just an honor to be here. And thank you all for coming out. This speaks volumes about you. This tells me that you care about your party. You care about your community. You care about your country. So thank you for coming out and listening to us politicians. You know, when I first ran for Spartanburg County Clerk of Court, the first group that I went to and announced my candidacy was the Spartanburg County Republican Women. So thank the Republican women for all they do. And I am proud to say that I have my favorite Republican woman in the whole wide world with me here tonight. My mother, Bonnie Hammond, has come with me tonight. Also, I'd like to tell you that back in 2002, I was part of the team that won all 9 constitutional offices. That was a big deal. And I'm the first Republican Spartanburg County Clerk of Court. I wanted to tell you just a little bit about me before I talk about your Secretary of State's office. It's not my office, it's your Secretary of State's office, and I have enjoyed serving in that capacity. But I grew up about 60 miles from here in Fair Forest, South Carolina, on the west side of Spartanburg. My dad was a state trooper for 33 years. My mother was personnel director at Spartanburg County. I graduated from Newberry College, and later, thinking that I may go into coaching and teaching, attended Clemson University and received a master's degree in post-secondary guidance and counseling. Decided that I was not going to go into coaching because my brother played for Clemson back then, and I wasn't going to be off somewhere coaching when he was going to be in Death Valley playing. So I went back to Spartanburg County. I was a juvenile probation officer for a year and a half, and then I took a job in the Spartanburg County Solicitor's Office, a job that I thoroughly enjoyed. I tell everyone that there's no greater reward than getting justice for a victim of a crime. Since I had worked in family court, since I had worked in criminal court in 1996, I decided to run for Spartanburg County Clerk of Court. And then in 2002, I decided to run for South Carolina Secretary of State. And I've always kept my campaigns very simple. You know, you have a lot of people making promises. Well, I talked about what I wanted to do, and I'm proud to say many of those accomplishments have been achieved. I told you that we were going to have one of the best Secretary of State's offices in South Carolina, accessible at all times, ready to do business, ready to transact business. I told you we were going to be a transparent office. Anyone that wanted to know anything about that office or receive documentation from that office, they were going to be able to receive that. And I told everyone, really going back to my time as a criminal investigator, that I was going to protect the charitable donors here in the state of South Carolina. And I take great pride in bringing actions against these nonprofits who are taking advantage of this state's wonderful generosity. But you're going to hear a lot about technology. You're going to hear a lot about helping business. Has anyone here driven from Spartanburg to Anderson? Business looks good to me. It looks real good. It takes an hour to get from Spartanburg to Greenville now. But, you know, in the last 5 years, business filings are up 33%. That's incredible. Last year we had over 170,000 business filings in the Secretary of State's office. And what I wanted to do is, I wanted to have a Secretary of State's office that technically is never closed. Who here has their iPhone, cell phone with them? You want to incorporate? You can incorporate tonight. You can go to sos.sc.gov and you can incorporate and form an LLC, or you can wait until tomorrow when you're at work, or you can do it like today on a holiday. We are never closed, and it is an award-winning program. Just 3 weeks ago, I was in Charlotte, and the International Association of Commercial Codes awarded the Merit Award to the South Carolina Secretary of State's office for all the work that we had been able to do to make it as simple and easy to file in the Secretary of State's office as possible. You know, the Bowen company said that South Carolina was the #1 state now for manufacturing. And that is something to be very proud of. You know, we're building things here in South Carolina. CEO magazine said that South Carolina was the fourth best state to do business in. So let's keep it going, and let's keep making South Carolina grow, not only for us, but for our children who we want to stay here in South Carolina and have good jobs and can go into any field that they would like to go into here in South Carolina. Does anyone here serve on a board or a commission? You know, I've been working with the governor's office. I wanted that to be as transparent as possible. I want you to know who is serving on boards and commissions. So now you can always call the Secretary of State's office or come by, but you can go to the website if you would like, and every board and commission in South Carolina is listed on that website. And not only is it listed and who is serving, you can also see when that term expires. You can see if it's appointment by the governor. You can see if it's elected by the legislature. And you can see the statute that created that board or that commission. Now, why do I want that to be such public record and people looking at that information? Because I want you to be interested in serving on a board and commission, because we need good people who will serve South Carolina. And some of these aren't paying jobs. But please, if you're interested in any board or commission, please look and see if there's anything that you would be interested in serving. We, again, work with the governor's office all the time. They've done a great job in filling these positions, but they check our website constantly to see which ones are coming up, which ones are expiring. And I tell you, people didn't think that this was a very good, or what the priority was, I guess, as far as having this published. But I can tell you right now, people want to know who their DOT commissioner is, and they can get that information. They want to know who is on the board of Santee Cooper, and they can easily get that information now. Having notaries in here. You know, I do a lot of legislation. You know, it's not front page news, but it's very important to the state of South Carolina. We have over 140,000 notaries registered in the state of South Carolina. You know, I do free notary seminars all across the state. I've done many here in South Carolina. I asked that question one time. I said, how many notaries are registered in the state of South Carolina? And you know, a nice young lady stood up and said, Mr. Hammond, all of them? And she was exactly right. But there's over 140. But we needed to change the statute. The only qualification to be a notary here in South Carolina was that you were a registered voter and that you had a legislature sign your application. Well, I was able to get this changed, as well as many other things. Now, if you want to be a notary in South Carolina, you must speak and understand the English language. I hope you think that that's important. And we were able to get that passed. Also some legislation, and I've worked closely with your delegation and many of these legislatures, but we passed UETA, Uniform Electronic Transaction Act, that opened the door for us to be able to do electronic filings. We've done over 144,000 electronic filings in just over a year in South Carolina. Also, we passed UPERA, and now it's much easier to file online, register of deeds. And why is that important? Well, what is more important in a business transaction than a closing for a house? And now it's much easier to conduct that closing, and it's much easier to file that paperwork in the Register of Deeds. And I know this is Veterans Day, and I appreciate all the service that our veterans have rendered to this great country. And they're the reason I'm able to be here tonight and speak before you. And as your Secretary of State, what I really do not tolerate, or what I do not appreciate at all is these veterans organizations who are taking advantage of our generosity and are using names similar to really good, creditable veterans organizations. And I have been able to file injunctions against these organizations. We participated in a multi-state action called Vietnam, and because of that, we were able to shut down an organization calling into South Carolina. They were calling, promising therapy, promising treatment in facilities, and they did not even offer that treatment in the state of South Carolina. We were able to shut them down. We also shut down Veterans Support Organization. They promised people jobs. You know what their jobs were? Collecting money for the Veterans Support Organization. We're going to keep working to fight against those unscrupulous charitable organizations. If you'll send me back as your Secretary of State, we're going to get e-notarization. We're going to try to come up with a system where you can go to one stop for business license. And just with all the things that I've been able to tell you about, the awards that the office has been able to do, I can assure you, as your Secretary of State, I am in the office more than 2 days a week. And when I have this, I'm never off. I'm always on call. God bless all of you. Thank you for having me. And my Deputy Secretary of State is also an attorney. She wears 2 hats, and she deserves every penny that she gets. Thank you.
We will now begin with the South Carolina House of Representatives candidates. We'll start with District 6. We would like to welcome Richard Freemantle.
Thank you. Before I get started, I'd just like to say thank you for the Anderson County Republican Women. You've done a great job in putting on this event. I know it was a monumental task. How are you all doing tonight?
Good.
What do you think about that gas, $2.69 a gallon and rising? You know, Mr. White, my opponent, the incumbent, because he's consistent, proven, and effective, he's promised us 5 more tax increases. How does it feel to be his personal ATM machine? After 17 years, the people in District 6 are going to have a choice. They're going to have a choice between an incumbent running as a conservative, or trying to, and a real conservative. Mr. White claims to be consistent, proven, and effective, and unfortunately I have to agree with that. My name is Rick Freemantle. I'm running to be the next representative for District 6. I'm in this race because I want to return conservative leadership, trust, and accountability back to the people in District 6. Now, what does conservative leadership mean? What does it look like for me? Well, for one thing, I can promise you I would never have voted for the largest tax hike in our state history. I wouldn't have voted to give myself a government raise, and I most certainly would never have voted for a $1.1 billion increase in our state budget. As a conservative, that's not what we do. We work and strive to lower the cost of government, reduce the size of government, reduce taxes, reduce wasteful spending. But the most important thing we do as a conservative is we fight, to protect and secure the liberty of everybody. Trust. Why is trust so important to me? I look at that oath of office as a solemn promise not to be broken. Mr. White has taken that oath of office at least 8 times now. When he had the chance to vote for constitutional carry, he voted against it. He violated his oath of office. He violated our trust. He damaged liberty. A couple weeks ago, Mr. White made some statements on the radio that the South Carolina Association of Taxpayers endorsed him and was okay with this gas tax. I have a letter here from the president of that organization. Those were 2 complete fabrications. We've all seen plenty of these things in the mail here the last couple of weeks. Folks, this is what $200,000 of outside political influence buys. My problem here is Mr. White claims to have done some things to make our children and our teachers safer. I have a problem with this little liberal blue circle here, this corner of this card. It says he did this without increasing any taxes and while maintaining a balanced budget. The dirty little secret is we don't have a budget yet. We're not going to have a budget until the end of June, maybe. What's in that budget that is so bad that he's not willing to pass it before the primary? Rumor has it Planned Parenthood is going to be fully funded and there's another tax increase in that budget. Mr. White, so far, for me, has proven that he's consistently untruthful. And therefore, if he's untruthful, I have no representation in Columbia. That's one of the reasons I'm in this race. Accountability. Someone said to me a few weeks ago that Mr. White is the next Hugh Leatherman of the upstate. I kind of laughed and chuckled. That was funny. I said, no. Baby Huey hasn't figured out how to repair our roads or pave them. As a matter of fact, after 17 years, he's shown no interest in truly reforming our Department of Transportation, reforming our judicial selection process, or reforming our ethics laws. As a matter of fact, he's shown no interest in fully funding our local government and has voted against it, which has cost us to date over $21 million. Mr. White has shown me that he is consistent, he's proven, and he's effective. He's the most effective good old boy in the corrupt swamp in Columbia. That's one reason I'm in this race. If I get in this race, you won't have to worry about me working to truly reform the Department of Transportation, to change the judicial process from selection to election so that we elect our judges and hold them accountable, and to strengthen our ethics laws so the next Rick Quinn goes directly to jail, not to the nearest clubhouse, laughing all the way. Anderson County government will return to being fully funded as state statute requires if I'm elected to this office. My name is Rick Freemantle. You have a chance to send a very loud message to Columbia. You can tell them that we are finished with the good old boy politics in this state. That's why I'm in this race, to represent the people of this county and this district that I'm running in. I have cards on your seats. I have contact information. That's my own personal phone number on those cards, not a campaign headquarters phone number. Thank you for your time.
Please welcome Representative Brian White.
Thank you. It truly is an honor and privilege to be here tonight, to be with you, and thanks for being the Republican women. I promise I'll be somewhat brief. Wow, that's a lot of things to be said in church.
Brian, pick up the mic.
Pick up the mic? All right. How about that? I got told I got to have classes to see my notes. First and foremost, thank you, Ruby, the Republican women, for putting this thing on and having us out. Also, I got my wife, Courtney, over here, my beautiful daughter, Isabel, Izzy, and my other young daughter, Madeline, who was obviously very upset for the things that was just said about her father. So she's crying. Y'all don't worry about that part. She's got a great mom, and we'll take care of her when we get home. She doesn't like the fact when people come up and tell stories on her dad. You know, today is about Memorial Day. It's about those fallen soldiers. It's about the things that give us our liberties and our freedoms. And that's everyone that fought for this country underneath this flag. My father was a veteran, or is a veteran. But one of my most proud accomplishments of being elected to the General Assembly is starting the state veteran cemetery system to honor those that gave. And it's located here in Anderson, the first one. There's multiples out there to be done, but that will happen. There's a lot of things that was just said by my opponent that are absolutely not true. 100% not true. There's actually a tax cut in the budget, by the way. A little over $1 million something sitting in there. Some of the Department of Commerce asked, because somehow they said that the port of South Carolina is somehow not a distribution center. I don't know what a port is if it's not a distribution center, but that's in there. Things I have accomplished and have done during my time there, not only Dolly Cooper to honor our veterans, but also creating workforce programs for people to be able to get to work. You heard the governor talk about how many jobs we got. We've been announcing jobs in Anderson. It is a good time to be in Anderson to get a job, a high-paying, quality job. But there are folks out there that within life you don't know what happened to. They got to have a way to get back to work. They may not have finished high school. They may have finished high school, they have a job working somewhere else and don't have the way to get back to work. Well, we have a lottery that basically, when it was enacted, says you got to have 12 hours of credits before you can get a lottery scholarship. Started a pilot program a couple of years ago within there called the Pathways Program. Jonathan, you're pretty familiar with that one too. Set aside money within the lottery for those folks that want to go back to be a welder, a truck driver, HVAC, those type things that are certificate programs that do not have your 12-hour qualifications like everybody that would be going. And that's the people playing the lottery. Let's give them a scholarship to go back, get a trade, get yourself up in that part. I was also privileged to be able to change the state's constitution, to put it to right hunt and fish. I've been accused of being someone that hates the Second Amendment. That lady went out that door with that crying child for things that was said. Bought me a .357 Python pistol. You guys know what that is in this room. For my 40th birthday. She bought me an AR-15 for my 50th birthday last year. So if you think I'm against the Second Amendment, not going to defend those rights, I'm a CWP card holder or member, and I'm also an NRA member. So I take great offense with that part. I do uphold the Constitution dearly. Things that we talked about with the Department of Transportation, your roads are getting fixed. How many of you have gone online and actually looked at the DOT website? Anybody? Have you seen the part that we actually put all the new money into a fund and tells you where the road is on a 10-year plan, what's going to happen, what's going to be done? That's there. We listened to the people. People said, hey, look, we don't mind paying more as long as we know where the money is going and will our roads be fixed. So we put that into a secure trust account that can only be used to repair the roads that are currently existing. It costs about $250,000 to resurface a mile of roads. $350,000 if you have to dig down and do it now. And yes, it did go up 2 cents in July. So that's basically, if you drive out there a lot, it probably cost you about an extra $20 so far this year. That's about a glass of tea when you eat out once a month. That's about what that costs. Whenever I get back, I've been working for the last year and a half on some stuff. It takes a while in Columbia to turn the Titanic. Mr. Atwater knows I'm pretty conservative in there. I'm known for saying no a lot, am I not? I have a no button on my desk. We're looking at revamping education and doing away with the funding formulas. The only formula you need is E. You don't need EIA, EFA, EEDA, and EAA. We need to educate children, and we need to fund them. It's $10 billion a year is what we fund in education right now, K-12. We need E. E is where it's got to be. And that's got to get down to the point of go give the money to the schools, have a set of standards, have goals, have them achieve them. If they don't, then you have consequences. And if you want to go and have extra administration locally, then you pay for it. But the state's only paying for a certain amount, and that's all we're going to do. And we are into that point. The last year and a half, I've had over 16 finance people from school districts. There's 85 school districts come into my office, and we have had meetings and sat down and go over things. They really like to have that funding formula change themselves. They would like a simpler way of doing things. They would like block grant funding, and that's where we're headed. Also revamping the local government fund. In 2015, I had set up a group to go in and look at doing that. That is also another formula that is outdated. Most counties can't come in. We have asked them for a list of mandates, and they can't tell us what they are. So if you can't tell me what the mandates are supposed to be uniform across this state from counties, why should we be funding you, just giving you money to go do what you want to with? That's why we're sitting and holding tight on that to revamp that formula also. In 2015, the House passed a bill to do that. It died in the Senate, where a lot of good things are going to die, unfortunately. I think Senator Cash, although he may have left, and Senator Gambrell will tell you that. And Mr. Atwater, you've had bills die there. I have, and others as well, but they will go to the Senate and die at that part. And to tell you about, just being conservative and having an upbringing. I was born in South Carolina. I'm going to die in South Carolina. I want to be here. I love my state. I want to raise my children here. I want my grandchildren here. Let me tell you a story about a gentleman, why the whites don't believe in the welfare system. This young man, his father left him. He had 3 brothers, himself. There was 4 people in a family. His mama was working 3rd shift in a textile mill. They went to school depending on who had the shoes to wear. The welfare system for that young man was the United States Army. When he was old enough, his mama signed him up, shipped him off in the United States Army. Right out of the 10th grade. It's my daughter's age, 16 years old. He went to boot camp, wanted to fly helicopters, was too young. Got stuck with a tank. I don't think that thing could ever get off the ground. Sent his checks home so his mama could raise his brothers. Because his dad decided he liked the lady in Florida more than he liked his mama or his wife. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my hero, that's my father. He's the man that taught me integrity, taught me sacrifice, taught me how to shoot a gun, how to treat people fairly, never to touch a woman. If you ever raise your hand to a woman, you'd be in trouble. And he wore my rear end out on a regular basis because I was doing something wrong. But that's fine. That's the same principles I use to govern, same ones I do my house. And I treat people with respect. I do not lie. You might not like what I say, but Todd, Mike, Jonathan, ever lied to any of y'all? No. I shoot straight. And Isabel can tell you she doesn't like how I shoot sometimes. But, sometimes you just don't get everything you want, but that's okay. But we have to work through to make South Carolina a better place and keep it a better place. And that takes sacrifice, and I'm willing to keep the sacrifice. I'd love to ask for your vote and your support. I think I've proven myself to pay back, to bring back to this community, to make it a better place, to help those people that don't have a way out, to get a way out, to get a better job, to pay those, to be a good citizen, to have a house and do those things. We've eliminated taxes on groceries. Done Act 388 that limited, cut out your taxes on your house. We've given 65 and older tax cuts. We've given tax cuts to firemen. So please send me back. I hope I've earned your support. Thank you.
Well, I kind of have a sixth sense of humor sometimes, but my great uncle, William Burris Big Bill King, actually died from his socks that he wore out stumping when he was running for re-election as sheriff years ago. Hopefully we're all going to come out a little better than that after the stump meeting. Next we'll have South Carolina House District number 7. Is Dennis Grindstaff present? No. Representative Jay West.
Good evening. You're going to be real happy in just about 2 minutes. Since my opponent's not here, I'm not going to take a lot of time. So I'm going to tell you a little story about my son. He came up to me the other day and he said, "Dad, I just got to know the truth. Was I given up for adoption?" And I broke down and I said, "Yes, Gray, but they brought you back." Oh, we might need a little light-hearted humor here. Just a little bit about myself. I've been in the House for 2 years. I went to Columbia 2 years ago thinking I had a lot of things I knew how to fix. It's quite interesting when I got there. Wasn't quite as smart as I thought I was. I was a lot smarter on the campaign trail until I got down there. I grew up in Belton. My grandparents owned a textile company. Everybody always thought I was real wealthy. What they didn't know is my mom and dad divorced when I was 10. I lived in Greenville with a single-parent mother who raised me and a special needs daughter, Judge. Worked for DSS, worked at a grocery store at night, and would sell insurance on the weekends. So I have a real empathy for people that are struggling out there, and I don't want them to be burdened anymore with high property tax bills, which has a lot to do with what we do with our education system right now. We don't need to build grandiose buildings with all this ethos and everything around it. That's not going to help a child learn anymore. We need to put the money in the classroom. And I've been down there 2 years on the Education and Public Works Committee, and I'm absolutely convinced that's one place where I think I can make a difference. I hope. Because I've watched the Department of Education layers programs year after year, year after year, but they never really cut any programs, so this funding continues. We need to go back in and recapture all that, put it into the classroom, because I'm going to tell you, if you want to have industry like we've been getting in Anderson County, and let me tell you, if you haven't heard of Arthrex, these are real high-paying jobs. You know what they get for their benefits? They get 100% health insurance. That's unreal. Those are the corporate citizens you want here. First Quality, Michelin, TTI just built. What was it, the thing, Senator, they did the soft landing facility from TTI. Let me tell you something. Anderson County has a real good team right now. And I'm not talking about in Columbia. I'm talking about from the local levels with the municipal governments to county council to the Economic Development Office through our delegation to Department of Commerce and to the governor's office. And if you don't believe that, go visit these companies. Because if you want to make a difference in this state, if you want to reduce entitlements, if you want to reduce property taxes, people have got to have good paying jobs. And I think that's one thing we all agree about. I don't mean to get excited about this, but I was raised with a sense of civility in politics. I don't like negativism. I don't like to be around negative people. I believe you win or lose on your own merits, and you step forward. And we've heard a lot tonight from a lot of different candidates, the governors and everybody else. I'm going to tell you, I voted to fix your roads and bridges, and I'll do it again. Or I would do the same thing again. I've run pharmaceutical companies. I know what it means to increase profits. One way you do that is you cut expenses. The other thing is you got to have revenue. I ask over and over again. I don't know if you remember this. We asked Washington for $5 billion to fix our roads and bridges, didn't we? That said the money wasn't there. But then they said, well, the money's there at DOT. We need to use what's there. So I went and asked everybody I could in Columbia, where's the money? It's not there. Well, then we're asked to do a bond referendum, issue a bond so we can fix the roads and bridges. Guys, what is it? Either we have it or we don't have it, so just tell me. Now, I'm going to tell you, the people you want in Columbia are the people that are willing to stand up and make hard decisions. You can unelect me tomorrow. I understand. That is your right, and the people we celebrate today fought for that right. And I appreciate them. But if you put me in Columbia again, I'm going to make the tough decisions. And I'm going to tell you, 30 years on the same stream of revenue, well, we had more people move to South Carolina. Yes, we did. But we also had 2,500 more miles of road added within that 30 years. I look at the numbers. I crunch the numbers. And when you tell me we have the highest death rates in the nation, we have school buses out there every day loaded with kids with no shoulders to our roads. People talk about their faith. I love Jesus Christ with all my heart. The last thing I'm going to do is do something to try to offend him or his name. The second last thing I'm going to do is lie to you. I'll make the tough decisions. I promise you that. My delegation is willing to make tough decisions. Jonathan, you sit right here. Do we agree on everything, Jonathan? We sit side by side. We're probably two of the most civil people that can disagree sitting in there, aren't we? You know I love you, you love me. We don't have to be nasty, do we?
Nope.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jay West. I promise you I'd be short. I'm going to be short. Thank you very much. If you're in my district, I'd appreciate your vote.
Now we'll have South Carolina House District number 8. Welcome Don Bowen.
Well, I thought I was going to get an extra 10 minutes from Jay, but unfortunately I didn't get it. I'd like to thank Ruby and the Republican women. I put that in red on the top of my notes so I wouldn't forget to thank them. Y'all have done a wonderful job. I'd like to give y'all a little bit of background about where I came from. It's nice to know a little bit about what people have done and where they came from in life and what streets they walked. I've lived in Anderson since 1956. I was born in Charleston, South Carolina, graduated from Wren High School, graduated from the University of South Carolina with a BS in marketing and a minor in economics. I have a fellowship in educational finance, and I served 6 years in the Williamston National Guard with a top secret security clearance in communications. I worked for 43 years in the retail grocery business, and I promise you, it's not an easy job to work in the retail grocery business because you have to deal with so many people on a daily basis. And then I got in personnel with BILO, which is there again, I was dealing with people and their problems. I was over 3 states, and I was a corporate recruiter for them. Why am I running for office? Well, I think it's you get that in your blood, and the only thing that gets it out of your blood, they say, is formaldehyde. So I guess I'm in for the duration on that one. One of the main reasons I ran is people in the district have called me and they're concerned about, they never see my representative. They want to know what he's done in the last 4 years. In the last thing we had a forum on Rick Driver's show, he claimed he did the Love Truck Stop thing. Well, that was something I worked on for about 3 years. I got 2 men on the ACTC to help us work on that particular situation. I went to DOT meetings. I wrote a letter to the president of Love's. And then I had somebody come to me and say, we're fixing to get a $160 million referendum laid on the district in which I live, which is District 8. They didn't go to my representative for that. They came to me. So I went out, took my cup out, as much as I hate begging for money, and begged enough money to print a mailer out to tell people what was going on. And it wasn't just me. I worked with a gang of other people out there. We all did it together. And that's the first time one of those referendums has been turned back, and we turned it back with an 80% vote. My opponent voted against a $600 million relief for hardworking South Carolinians and farmers. He voted against a raise for teachers. You know, we did away with the Terry program, and we're going to have a shortage of teachers, so we need to give our teachers a pay rate for what they're doing. The biggest problem I see in schools these days is discipline. We can't get discipline in the classroom. The class sizes. Right now we spend $16,211 per child. In the average classroom of 30 children, there's about $500,000 being allocated to educate them. But how much of it gets in the classroom? I want to see at least 68 cents out of every dollar put in the classroom. Good education keeps us free, and it keeps us strong. What's my guy done? He voted against the needed ban on sanctuary cities that Trump's been trying to get done. He's been anti-Trump from day one. He said he wasn't voting for him, voted for Ted Cruz. Doesn't support our president. I went to the first rally he had here in South Carolina, talked my way into getting to sit on the front row, and have been a supporter of his since day one. And then he talks all the time about we should secede from the Union. You know, we tried that one time before and it didn't work very well. I don't think it'd work well again. He aligns himself with radical think tanks that send out the kind of mail that Mr. White was talking about, telling people that he doesn't support the gun rights or the Second Amendments. They sent that same BS thing out on me. And I've got an A rating with the NRA. I believe in the right to life. I support the Second Amendment rights from A to Z. I've been shotgun robbed out in the grocery stores twice. And I was a marksman in the military, so I know what it's like to be on both ends of those rifles. What's he really done? Well, here's the thing that really bothers me and makes me come here tonight. He's gone down to Columbia, and he's alienated the voting members of the House. It takes there's 123 more people down there besides him. It takes 62 people voting plus you to get something passed. And does he represent you when he does that kind of stuff? He never gets any bills passed. He's not serious. He does not know how to negotiate with the people on the floor, or does he care to? That's not good for House District 8. He painted them a rosy picture when he got out and ran against me and said, just give me a chance. Well, they've given him 4 years for that. Sitting in that leather chair down there in Columbia does no more make you a representative than sitting in a pilot seat makes you a good pilot. People's lives and families are at stake in all cases. What have I done? Well, I supported the president since day one. The market's up now, which is good. That's the heartbeat of the world. We have 3% unemployment in the country. It's the lowest in a long time. I helped with our $160 million referendum defeat. They called me down in Lawrence. I'm still for not laying the taxes on people. We went down there, used that same mailer that I did up in our area, and we got a $249 million referendum turned down with a 77% vote. And I got a call this week. Abbeville's heard about that. They want me to come down there and help them fight that referendum, and I'll be there, I promise you. The last 2 years, I've been working on something called equitable taxing. I want our tax system to be simple enough for even me to read and understand. And this system does. We want to get the property taxes off your house and your cars. Wouldn't it be nice to actually own your own home, or own your own car, or own your own motorcycle without the government constantly taxing you, constantly raising the millage, and constantly adjusting the market value? I was asked here a few weeks ago to go down to Savannah and speak in behalf of the people on the lake and the river basin. Well, I went down there and spoke because I've worked with that for years, as some of y'all may know. And I think my representative knows where the lake is, but I don't know that he knows much more than that. The lake is a major economic engine for us. It has value. It needs to be protected so that we can, and preserved for our future people that we've got coming on. I formed a Savannah River Caucus with the representative on the Georgia side. We had the members of the House and the Senate on both sides got together. We got 600 people to come down to the dam for a meeting, both governors, both lieutenant governors, and both heads of the respective DNRs. And while they were down there, the DNR guys agreed that fishing and boating rules, that they would represent the same thing on either side. You wouldn't get a ticket if you got over on the Georgia side and caught too many fish. We hosted the Georgia delegation in Columbia. They hosted us. And you know, it's a lot easier to talk about a lot of problems over the meal table than it is to sue each other. I passed a bill for water permitting, which keeps anybody from coming and taking however much water they want out of any of our water resources. I passed texting bill, road work. I got the $7 million out during the depths of the recession that was used to build the Green Pond Landing, which has been a tremendous asset for us. And we put people to work, local people to work, during the depths of our recession. It took 4 years and it was hard work, but it was worth it. None of that money was any tax money. It was a court awarded from Schlumberger having put PCBs in the lake. I believe in our public schools, and we need to have strong public schools. I'm concerned for the people of this district. Leon Howard put it very bluntly in the paper the other day. He said that my representative is the most ineffective, worthless piece of crap that he had ever had the pleasure to serve with, and I feel sorry for his district. I know he was frustrated when he said that, and I'm frustrated being up here saying some of the things I'm saying here tonight. But it's the easiest thing for me to do would be to do absolutely nothing, and I can't. I'm 73 years old, and with age comes wisdom. I'm still maybe waiting on a little of the wisdom, but I'm still plugging it away. I can't even draw a salary if I go back down there. I can't draw benefits because I'm retired. But I don't ever give up. I can work with people, and I'm ready to serve all of y'all. Thank you very much, and I really would appreciate your support.
Please welcome Representative Jonathon Hill.
Well, thank you all. It's a pleasure to be back here. In some ways, this feels a bit like deja vu. I shared the podium and the debate stage with Mr. Bowen 4 years ago, again 2 years ago, and now again this year. And the only difference, well, there's more than one difference. One difference is that we're both a little older and a little grayer. I hope I'm a little wiser for the time that I've spent in the State House. I'll tell you another thing that's always interesting one of the most interesting things in politics is you never know where somebody's going to come from, right? And so one of the things that has been fascinating, whether you're watching a presidential debate or whether you're watching a race for U.S. Senate or whether you're watching a race for South Carolina House, you never know which version of a politician you're going to see. Now, my predecessor in 2014 was for the gas tax. In 2016, he was against the gas tax. In 2013, he was for a tax referendum, a bond referendum. In 2017, he was against a similar bond referendum. So folks, you know, I like to look at record. I think it matters more what I actually do than what I tell you I'm going to do. Okay? And so one thing that I have tried to do is to be consistent. Now, just to go back for just a minute, for those of you, most of you probably do know me. I see a lot of familiar faces here, and it is good to be back among friends. But I am Representative Jonathon Hill. I live out in Townville with my wife, Amanda. She's sitting here on the front row helping me. She's my campaign manager, and she instructed me in no uncertain terms to say anything flowery or embarrassing about her. She also told me not to wax too eloquent about Memorial Day and take up a bunch of folks' time. But I've got to say this. My grandfather on my dad's side was a Korean War veteran. And so let me tell you, some of the recent events regarding Korea have been extremely special to me to watch. And I realize that, I've been criticized for some of the concerns I had early on about President Trump. But let me tell you, I fully and unequivocally support what he is doing in the White House right now. And I am so thrilled that we have finally seen, after so many years, the end of the Korean War. I was just aghast a few years back to learn that our boys and girls in uniform were still being stationed out there guarding that border because the war had never officially ended. Well, now it has. I've been thrilled to watch as the prisoners have been able to come back to the United States who were wrongfully held there in Korea, and so many other things. And I have confidence that our president is making the right calls and navigating us through some very tricky foreign policy waters. I'm glad I don't have the job, I'll tell you that much. In the past 4 years, as I have run, as I have campaigned, I have been careful about what I have promised and what I have not promised. What I have promised is what kind of person and what kind of representative I would be. My promise is that I would be there for you, that I would pick up the phone when you call. And I'll tell you something, in the last 4 years, everyone who has called me, I've done my level best to call them back if I wasn't able to pick up the phone immediately. And some of those individuals, have been people that gave me a hard time. I don't mind talking to those folks. If you're a constituent, I will talk to you. If you need my help, I will talk to you. I will do my best to help you. I promised that I would show up and work hard. I read the bills every day that we're in the legislative session, and I do the best job of that I can. I think that background in software engineering and the level of attention to detail that you have to learn to write software and write computer programs probably helped to prepare me for this, because I've been able to actually catch numerous errors that affected legislation and help staff fix those. These were trained, paid staff attorneys. I'm not an attorney. So it does pay to do your homework and work hard. And I promised that I would do my best to keep state government out of your way and out of your wallet. I have opposed, not just voted against, but actively fought against tax increases, including the gas tax. The reason for that is simple. We never had a money problem. In DOT, we had a debt problem. And the gas tax that was passed didn't put more money into road maintenance. It gave DOT more credit to work with. The $200 and something million that will be raised by the increases in the gas tax were given to DOT with the understanding that they would be able to borrow up to $2 billion off of that. Guess what you don't do with borrowed money? Resurface roads. You know what you do with borrowed money? You pave new roads. You create new bridges. Maybe you rebuild a bridge every now and then. And so when we look around and we see problems with our roads, it's no wonder. And that's because the system itself has not fundamentally changed. And until we make that system accountable to the governor and accountable to the people of South Carolina, that's not ultimately going to change. And I cannot, in good conscience, vote for taking more of your money and wasting it, which I believe is exactly what's happening. That said, I will do the level best that I can to work with the system that we've got. It may not be the system I want, but I'll do my best to work with the system that we've got. And that's how we got, in year one, Love's Truck Stop, that section in front of Love's Truck Stop on Davis Bridge Road repaved, by working with people, by working with the Anderson Transportation Commissioner that Don Bowen helped to put in place. I worked with him. And so, that's just one example in year one of things that I was able to get done. Let me end on this note. You can't be a tax reformer unless you're a spending reformer. And in the time that I've been in office, I have voted against billions of dollars in unnecessary, duplicative, and wasteful state spending. And until we get our spending under control, we will never, ever get our taxes under control. Thank you.
House District 11, Dale Phillips. No, okay. We had some last minute people. Did I get all the House members that came to speak? Okay, would you please welcome Judge Dan Sharp?